Is the military plotting to stop Donald Trump? We know that Time magazine had that article after 2020 saying, if we did it, because we know they did it, but now before the election has even started, the question is, are they doing it again? This is a new story from NBC News. They say that the military and other people who are, I would call them bureaucrats embedded in the deep state, they are working to stop Trump before he even wins. That's how nervous they are. So we're going to see what's happening there, who some of these people are, before we turn our attention over to the newly disclosed expert witnesses who are going to be testifying against Trump in the Florida classified documents case. We've got a notice of disclosure listing a bunch of new FBI agents who are all going to be telling us that Trump's a criminal. Experts like Andrew Kochy. He is on the computer response team. We're going to see what Johnathan Hoyt does. He's on the cellular analysis team. We're going to look at David Loveall. He's a senior computer scientist, all from the FBI, all being disclosed by the DOJ. Then we'll hear from Schiff, Bernie, Scaramucci. Yuval Harari says that a Trump win would be the death of global order, which sounds amazing. And then Trump himself is going to come out and say, this is what we're going to do when we get in charge of the DOJ. But here's the story. The military coup, a plot to stop Trump before it even begins. NBC tells us the following. Fears are growing that Trump will use the military in dictatorial ways. He returns over to the White House. And so, of course, they can't let that happen. They're going to do something to stop him. And here is what it sounds like. They say Donald Trump is sparking fears among those who understand the inner workings of the Pentagon, saying that he would convert the nonpartisan, which is like a joke because they expelled people who wouldn't follow their mandates. Milley screams about white rage. We now know that there's all sorts of transitioning things happening and weird. So they're pretty partisan, but anyways, says Trump would turn it into a muscular arm to enact his political agenda. A circle of appointees independent of Trump's political operation steered him away from ideas that they thought were bad, which I would call treasonous. You know, they were basically not doing what he told them to do. Most were gone by the end, but in a new term, many former officials worry that Trump would instead surround himself with loyalists, unwilling to say no, like all of those other deep staters did before, which is great news. I hope Trump doesn't hire any of those people. Now, Trump has raised fresh questions about his intention if he regains power. Now, look at this, including to assassinate political rivals, which was a stupid question from Judge Pan in the DC Circuit Court of Appeals on that. All right, look, if you're going to have political people assassinating political opponents and you have people actually executing those orders, country's in a pretty problematic situation anyways, right? We're kind of talking a whole new level of hypotheticals. But even if they did, right, even if Joe Biden, for example, assassinated Trump, my position is still, you got to impeach him and convict him, then you can prosecute him. And unless he takes out half of Congress, then that is the appropriate constitutional mechanism by which you prosecute him. It's not complicated. But now, bracing for Trump's return, a loose knit of, I don't know, insurrectionists, of public interest groups and lawmakers, they're quietly devising plans to try to foil any efforts to expand presidential power, which could include pressuring the military. Those taking part in the effort, which are like coup plotters, or Liz Cheney might call them insurrectionists, or militia members, or oath keepers, or Proud Boys, okay, whoever these people are, they told, you know, like the version of that using their framing, they told NBC News they're studying past actions so that they can be ready if Trump wins. Sounds like they're getting a little nervous there. That involves legal action, sending letters to Trump appointees, spelling out the consequences if they undermine constitutional norms. Mary McCord said, we're already starting to put together a team to think through the most damaging types of things that Trump might do, so we're ready to bring lawsuits if we have to. Part of the aim is to identify like-minded coalitions to bring them together against Trump. Other groups called Democracy Forward, an organization that took Trump to court more than 100 times. We're preparing for litigation to go after Trump, and there's a bunch of people here involved. Some lawmakers on Capitol Hill worry that Trump might invoke the Insurrection Act, and Blumenthal, a Democrat from Connecticut, is crafting a bill to talk about the Insurrection Clause and the Insurrection Act. So they're being very dramatic about this. Now, this is, you know, not the government, but it is people outside of the government who are plotting to take him down. Now, I would imagine that these same people are also interfacing with the people who are in the government. You know, the refrain that I've been repeating like a broken record is, how can these secretaries of states, if they are vehemently and actively opposing Trump from even being on the ballots, how can we trust them to actually run the elections in the aftermath? Same with all of these people. CIA lied to us last election. FBI lied to us last election. All the social media companies censored and covered up the stories that were bad for their guy. It's nonstop. And so they're now creating the infrastructure to do the same thing all over again. And where are the Republicans in response? Well, we'll see. Now, we also have new filings in the Florida case, so we can see who some of these people are who are going to be testifying against Donald Trump in the classified documents case, which is a manufactured intelligence intelligence operation to say that the president, who is entitled to all the documents that he ever could want because he is the president, and the Constitution says so under the opinion power in the presidency, he's entitled to have these classified documents. Now, the DOJ said, no, you're not, because the National Archives is more powerful than the presidency, and congressional statutes somehow usurp constitutional powers, again, vested to the president. But for whatever reason, these FBI agents are going to come out and testify. Let's see who is coming out. This is the government's notice of expert testimony in the Florida case, classified documents. These are short filings, but let me just share with you who the government is identifying for us. We've got a bunch of people from the Computer Analysis Response Team. So these 4 people, A, B, C, and D, are all from the Computer Analysis Response Team. Gabriella Mancini, Stacy Shaharani, Special Agent Henry K. Ha, Special Agent Andrew Kochy. Oh gosh, is it Kochy or the other one? I don't know. That guy's having either way you go on that one, it's dangerous. We'll call it Kochy, not the other one. So Kochy, Andrew Kochy, or Johnathan Hoyt, or David Loveall. Okay, these are all people who are going to be testifying against Trump, maybe. Having provided a complete statement of our expert witnesses, let's learn a little bit more about who these people are from Jay Bratt. Jay Bratt is the one submitting this. So here are the actual notices. So Special Agent Hoyt, he is on the cellular analysis team. So let's see what he says about this. They say Special Agent Hoyt, he's got a lot of training in cell sites, 230 hours of cell site training, and he's got a nice background, 10 years, no publications. But here's what he's going to talk about. So the cell guy, he says that Special Agent Hoyt created 3 reports that detail cell site analysis for 2 cell phones. So they've got 2 cell phones, one belonging to Walt Nada, the other belonging to Carlos de Oliveira. All 3 reports were in the discovery. Walt is the valet and Carlos is another staff member there. So Special Agent Hoyt, what did he do? He's going to explain cell towers, call detail records. He's going to put them on maps, on overlaid maps, and say, hey, from this location, he went from here to here and from here to here and from here to here. The government says that Special Agent Hoyt will testify that using cell tower lat and longitude coordinates from Nada and de Oliveira's cell phone, he mapped cell site data into software that shows where they all went. He's expected to testify that analysis of the cell site created the report, and he's going to explain that location data on June 25th shows Walt's cell phone moving to New Jersey, to LaGuardia, then to Boston, and back to Palm Beach. So they're going to use the cell phone records to show that Walt Nada, I guess, picked up some stuff. Nada then connected to de Oliveira's cell phone back at Mar-a-Lago. So they just moved around. They're just tracking their movements. The location data will also show Nada in South Florida until it returned to New Jersey. Then it got to the Mar-a-Lago cell tower again. A call was made from Nada's cell phone to de Oliveira, and Special Agent Hoyt is going to testify about how the cell networks operate and how location analysis is reliable. Signed by Johnathan Hoyt, FBI. So they're going to track around the numbers, right? Okay, so that's one Special Agent FBI. Here's attachment D. This is somebody on the Computer Analysis Response Team. Remember, there are 4 people on this team, and they're all doing different things, and I believe they also picked up some other devices. But Andrew Kochy is going to be here. He is another FBI Special Agent, multiple units focused on cybercrime, major crimes. He's got all sorts of, forensic qualifications from the FBI, and here's what he's going to talk about. So they say Special Agent Kochy is going to testify that he did a forensic analysis of an Apple iPhone 12 mini with the serial number that belonged to de Oliveira. They got a search warrant for that. He's also going to testify about other messages that he got, corresponding times and locations, certain images, and other things. We anticipate that Kochy is going to explain how we verify that all this data is good to show that the original evidence is not damaged or misinterpreted. And he basically imaged the cell phones, and then he's going to explain those. So Andrew Kochy submitted that one as well. And then the final expert that we'll cover here today is this guy. And he's kind of the most senior guy is what it looks like. David Loveall II. He's been a computer scientist for a while. Quantico, Virginia, December 2013. Prior to that, he was a digital forensic examiner in Kansas. Lots of credentials, DOS, Windows, adjunct professor, Windows registry forensics. I know what some of these things are. Mr. Loveall's qualifications are broad. They say no publications in the last 10 years, but if necessary, this is the social media guy. He's going to look at publicly available videos and images and social media posts captured from the internet. He's going to put on his monocle and be the internet expert. Now, speeches, media, interviews, true social posts, all this stuff is going to be introduced as evidence. He's going to explain to confirm the videos are accurate, when they were presented, and the methodology for the illegal Trump Trump truth posts. So David Loveall is going to be the guy who is behind that one. So you can see these are the different people who are going to be presenting some evidence against Donald Trump in the Florida case, provided that that case goes to trial soon. And these are the people also a part of the deep state, guys like Adam Schiff, who lied to us about intelligence and other aspects of our government for years to go after Trump. And he was on MSNBC's hit show called Inside Jen Psaki with the former White House press secretary. And here's what he said.
Life of a Senate president, if they brought impeachment proceedings and not be held accountable, essentially it would, to quote Justice Goldberg, it would turn the Constitution into a suicide pact. And the Constitution is not a suicide pact. It doesn't require its own destruction. Donald Trump would interpret the Constitution. It would nullify any of the protections the American people have from a despot or despotism. I think the tougher question, frankly, the Court of Appeals may have to deal with is, should they decide this before there's a verdict in the case? Maybe the closer question. But on the merits of this, is a president immune while in office from being prosecuted for committing crimes when he leaves office? The answer is clearly no. And I think even with the current Supreme Court, they're going to conclude, no, you don't have that kind of immunity.
Well, you don't if you're impeached and convicted. Donald Trump was not impeached. He was impeached, but not convicted. So that's the problem, Shifty Schiff. But you can see they just keep changing the standard. It's like Trump can murder everyone and there's no consequence. That's not true at all. There are other avenues to get there. But here's Bernie Sanders. Okay, they're all now doing this, we're all going to die routine on the media every single day. Bernie got the same memo. He showed up with Jake Tapper. Here's what that sounded like when Bernie got the chance to speak.
Look, I think we will see what happens in November because the choice is pretty clear. Running against Donald Trump, who I suspect will be the Republican candidate, is one of the most dangerous political figures in modern American history. So I think people will end up rallying around Biden. But there is no question, it is very hard for young people, I think for most Americans, to be excited about what is going on right now. President has got to change course. He has been very clear. He has expressed his concern about quote-unquote indiscriminate bombing. He has asked Netanyahu over and over again to change course. Netanyahu just yesterday said, no, we're going to continue doing what we are doing. Unacceptable. You cannot give billions of dollars to a country that ignores your wishes, violates international law. So I would hope that the president follows through on his concerns and says to Netanyahu, this is unacceptable. You're not getting a nickel more from the United States unless you radically change course. We're not going to.
All right, so even Bernie Sanders is getting a little tired of the Biden people. And we know there was an insurrection at the White House last night. And at the White House, there were protesters who were protesting what was happening in Gaza, who actually came up against real fences last night. Did you see that? There were actual real fences there that they didn't want people to pass. And if you compare and contrast the fences from the insurrection last night with January 6th, there were like little bike racks that they were just knocking over on January 6th, right? So you can just see the two differences. They do not want people to go into the White House, so they put up actual fences, and they also exited Joe Biden, whereas with Trump, they just put over these little 3-foot gates that an 8-year-old could hurdle over on January 6th. So they're having some difficulty there in the Democratic Party as well. Here's an ex-Trumper called Scaramucci. You remember him? He was around for like 2 minutes. And Scaramucci saying, I'm going to be out working against Trump.
100%. No, you didn't mishear me. If Donald Trump is the nominee, I'm a patriot first, Jim. I'm a partisan second. This is a battle for the American democracy. This is a battle for freedom. When someone's telling you they're going to flex and be a dictator on day one and go after their adversaries, this is against the 200-plus year experiment of America. This is against what made your family and my family successful in this country.
200-year experiment there, Scaramucci? Do you mean like 234-year history of not prosecuting people in this country until they just decided to do that under new novel theories that nobody's ever tested before, or removing people from ballots like they've done in Colorado and Maine? So these people are, I think, really intentionally misleading, the saying that they're fighting for American democracy while their side, their networks, are trying to throw Trump off the ballots everywhere they turn. Now, this is a great clip from this guy called Yuval Harari, and I like his work, actually. I know he's a weird dude, and many people call him a WEF shill, but his books are actually pretty good. I read both of them. One is called Sapiens, and the other is called Homo Deus. So one is about the history of humanity, one is about the future of humanity, and I read him more as somebody who is observational rather than prescriptive. People, I think, hear him talk about this weird transhumanist future that sounds very dystopian and very WEF-y, no doubt. But I don't know that he's an advocate for that lifestyle other than he's just observing it. Anyways, you can have your differences on him. I think his work is quite good, and I think it's important to be able to interpret what the other side is saying. I don't think he's a dumb person. listen, and I think he's got a very good point here where he's talking about what happens next.
Are you concerned that Trump might be elected again shortly?
I think it's very likely. And if it happens, it is likely to be the kind of like the death blow to what remains of the global order.
Nice.
And he says it openly. Now, again, it should be clear that many of these politicians, they present a false dichotomy, a false binary vision of the world, as if you have to choose between patriotism and globalism, between being loyal to your nation and being loyal to some kind of, I don't know, global government or whatever.
And it is going to be the destruction of the global order because it's about America first. That's what we want to see. And I think that he is right about that there is this kind of battle that's happening. Are we going to be a part of a global effort, or are we going to be a part of a country that cares about itself and its people rather than sacrificing its people for the global order, which is why we're supporting Trump, many of us, because Trump is the antithesis of that. He is the one person who stands outside of the mob, outside of the masses who are going along with endless war, open borders, debasing our currency, and the rest of the litany there. So I think that he is right about that Trump win would really signal the death of the global order, and I can't wait for it. Now, here's what Trump says when he's responding to the DOJ. Of course, the DOJ and the FBI have been going after Trump almost exclusively, and the J6ers and everybody else who associates themselves with Trump. And this is Trump explaining what his intentions are.
I will direct a completely overhauled DOJ to investigate every radical, out-of-control prosecutor in America for their illegal, racist, and reverse enforcement of the law. I'm also going to indemnify all police officers and law enforcement officers throughout the United States to protect them from being destroyed by the radical left for taking strong action on crime. We're going to stop crime in our country. And we will take over the horribly run capital of our nation. Horribly run. We have a capital that we all love. Right now it's a rat-infested, graffiti-infested, where people are being killed. This week, 3 people were shot. People are being killed just for walking into a park, which is now littered with tents and...
It's true. It is a dump over there. My gosh. So Trump's going to be there to, I think, bring back some order, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. And so, my friends, we are going to be here to continue to cover this and more. They are plotting hard against Trump. We've got new expert witnesses from the FBI. This is just probably the start. There's going to be a lot more people who are coming out as these prosecutions and this weaponized lawfare against Trump continues on. We're going to be here continuing to cover it. And so thank you for joining us as we do, my friends. Thank you for subscribing. Thanks for hitting that like button wherever it is you're watching this. Thanks for checking out robertgovea.com. If you want to read any of these PDFs, we're going to upload them all up on robertgovea.com. Link is down in the description below. While you're there, sign up for our daily newsletter. That way, we summarize all of these stories, deliver them to your inbox, and then you can forward them to everyone you've ever met in your entire life. And they're going to love you for it. And so thanks for doing that, and we'll see you back here on the next one.